Super Mario Sunshine. I know I don't do it like Mario does it. Super Mario Sunshine was released on the GameCube, and it was scored by Koji Kondo and Shinobu Tanaka. Super Mario Sunshine is probably one of the most joyful games I've ever played. The setting, everything about the game is just good, happy vibes. I mean, there's points where it's supposed to be sad and dapper and meh, but for me, it's just a sweet experience. It's probably one of the Mario games that I don't rush through. Like, I would never speedrun Super Mario Sunshine because I want to experience it. I just want to run around the city and see the beautiful sights, and and the soundtrack is something that helps keep you in that world. It helps keep you invested in saving those people, and it helps you remember just that this is a fun summer kind of game. Play it in the wintertime. I promise you'll get happy if you don't like the cold. So, Super Mario Sunshine. Final Fantasy 15. Now, I know there are people that are not gonna like this pick, but just let me explain. Final Fantasy 15 came out last year, and it was scored by, once again, the fabulous Yoko Shimomura. I don't care what people say. Does it have issues with its story? Yes. Is the gameplay very erratic and out of control sometimes? Absolutely. Are things much more difficult in places than they probably should be? Yes, 100%. The Castle Mark Tower is the most difficult thing I've ever done. I hate the fact it's in the game, and I wish they would set it on fire. But regardless of those things, this is a game that we waited 10 years to get. It came out, and it did not meet expectations, no. But in its own right, it was still a great game, and nothing signifies that more than the soundtrack that was done, because it is immersifying. It does what Yoko does best. It strikes emotions when it needs to. It can be joyful when it needs to. It can be sad when it needs to be, but it can be powerful when it needs to be. There is some of the strongest music I've ever heard in a video game in Final Fantasy 15. And regardless of what you think of the story, what you think of anything of that nature, I think that this should still be viewed as a great game in the Final Fantasy franchise, in the universe. I think they might be milking it too much, and I don't think the game is perfect, but I think that from a soundtrack standpoint, this game can stand on its own feet in a video game franchise that had some of the greatest music of all time. And I know people are going to be mad that not only do I have it at number 4, but I could have put a dozen other Final Fantasy games on this list. Don't worry, there is another Final Fantasy game. It's probably not the one you think, but until then, Final Fantasy 15. Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist of the Roses. Now I know some people are sitting there like, what game are you talking about? Well, let me tell you. Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist of the Roses was a game released on the PlayStation 2. The game was scored by Washiro Ozaki and Hiroshi Tanabe. Here's the thing about this game. It's obscure, yes. And unless you're a Yu-Gi-Oh! Fan, you probably have never played the game. And even if you are a Yu-Gi-Oh! Fan, you probably haven't played this game. But without going into detail, because I plan on going into detail on the game in the future, it's a different take on the way Yu-Gi-Oh! Was played. But the same mechanics, the attack features, everything is mostly the same except, okay, almost nothing the same. But one thing that this does better than almost any Yu-Gi-Oh! Game I've played, and a lot of games I've played, is that the soundtrack is impeccable. It's a mixture of jazz and rock that I've never thought I would see in a video game. And this is a game I played years and years ago when I was still a youth, and I knew then this was one of my favorite gaming soundtracks. And I turn the game on sometimes just to play through it. If there's no other reason to play this game, it is to listen to the soundtrack. Or you don't even play the game. Just go on the YouTube, type in Yukio Duelist of the Roses soundtrack, and listen to more than just the tracks I'm playing. Because I promise you, this game has so much range in it, and there's so many tracks. I wish I could just play the whole soundtrack for the next hour, but I can't do that. Otherwise, the video would be ridiculously long, and YouTube probably wouldn't even let me upload it. So, no, I am 100% serious when I say go out and just play this game and listen to its soundtrack. It is incredible, and it's something that you would never expect from a game you probably would have never played. Lightning Returns Final Fantasy XIII. See, I told you about a Final Fantasy game, and what better way to follow up another definitely mixed reception Final Fantasy game with another Final Fantasy mixed reaction game. Lightning Returns Final Fantasy XIII was released on the Xbox 360, PS3, and eventually Steam, and it was scored by Masashi Hamauzu, Naoshi Mizuta, and Mitsuto Suzuki. I got those right. Here's the thing about this game. This, in my opinion, is probably one of the most underrated Final Fantasies ever released. Because it was the third game in the Final Fantasy XIII trilogy, and a lot of people did not enjoy the Final Fantasy XIII trilogy. This game didn't get the amount of love it probably should have gotten. It was the worst selling game in the trilogy, and it was probably the best game in the trilogy. It completely revamped the entire battle system. It introduced something more akin to what Final Fantasy XV would get. It had an incredible character outfit customization system. It had a lot of weapons. It had a decent story, and to boot, it had one of my favorite gaming soundtracks in video games, period. Once again, I'm a sucker for good jazz music, good jazz. My favorite genres are jazz, R&B, little pop, K-pop, J-pop. That's the one that's been going through. Rap music, You know, and so if you can combine music I enjoy and make that into like a classical type soundtrack, hats off to these three people. I don't know if they're all men or any women. I don't want to be rude. But hats off to them for creating just an incredible soundtrack. And I promise you, if you play through this game, you will not be disappointed in the least bit. You will absolutely enjoy this game, and you will enjoy the incredible soundtrack. Kingdom Hearts 2, without a doubt, not only one of my favorite video games of all time, but definitely one of the greatest soundtracks ever made. The soundtrack was composed once again by the incredible, fantastic Yukio Shimomura, and not only is everything else about this game perfect, the Kingdom Hearts franchise definitely holds a special place in my heart as being one that I always will play. I love every game in the franchise. I mean, there's some great ones and there's some decent ones, but it's everything about it is great, from the inclusion of Disney characters to the story and the characters that you run across. Final Fantasy being mixed in there too. The world ends without you. Please don't be mad if that's the wrong name, but including characters from these different franchises, and the fact that Kingdom Hearts 3 is right around the corner. I go back to this game and everything about it for me is just perfect. If I ever made a review and gave a game a 10, it has to match the amount of love I have for Kingdom Hearts 2 for it to even be considered for a 10, because Kingdom Hearts 2 is a clear 10 in every category, including sound. And I could go on for hours talking about how great it is, but I think I'm going to end it with, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Super Player 301. Thank you for watching. Enjoy.